What is going on, everybody? Appreciate you all tuning in. We are back with another episode of Precision. Oh, sorry, Passion and Precision. How we can butcher the own name of our show, Passion and Precision, with myself and Jory. What's going on, Key? See you in here already. Appreciate you tuning in. Um, yeah, so it's the second week. Last week we kicked it off, had a lot of fun, decided to come back and do it again. Uh, if you are new to the show, appreciate it. We're here every Friday, about 7:15 ish. We went a little bit later today, but it's all good. Kind of give you our thoughts on what's going on in sports world. Might get a rant or two. Can't promise you, but very likely. But yeah, before we get into everything, Jory, how are you doing today? It's a Friday. Gotta love it.
I am. Traffic was not kind to me today. Not me getting cut off by a tractor.
Yeah,
Like, how does that happen? But I'm all right. It's Friday. Can't wait for the weekend.
exactly. Exactly. Like if you're
And I,
not gonna be happy on a Friday, when can you be happy? Key says, I'm sure Jory's gonna go off. See, Key's already ready for a rant.
we might get one or two
Spoiler
today.
alert, might get one for me. I don't know. Feel a little ranty, maybe, depending on one of our topics. But yeah, so on this episode, we're going to talk about obviously NBA. Some news was made both in trades as well as a coaching move. We'll have to talk. Well, actually, a couple of coaching moves we'll talk about. Obviously talk about the new NBA champions. We'll get into them. We'll also have some NFL to talk about because last week we did talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence, but this week we want to talk about what the Trevor Lawrence move means for a couple of other quarterbacks that are looking around like, when are we going to get our bag? And then we have some way too early predictions. I feel like we're coming towards the end of June. I mean, preseason's in August, so why not just fire off some predictions in this episode? Key said Dak. Yep, Dak is definitely one of the quarterbacks we'll touch on. So let's go ahead and get into our first topic. Here we go. The Celtics won their 18th championship, had their parade today. It was pretty cool. I mean, that's my city. I know how they do it. People will pack up in there. You can forget about work. I mean, probably for a couple of days for some of these people, but I feel like we'll start with Jory, your thoughts on the Celtics in general, the coverage of them. Are they getting? I think for some Celtics fans, like they're not getting their just due. I mean,
And
I was listening to NBA radio, and they have literally already started talking about the offseason. It's like the championship never happened. I see a lot on social media where people have moved on already. So, like, what are your general thoughts on the Celtics winning it, and why people seem to be ready to move on from them so quickly?
this is one of the most disrespected champions I've ever seen. In terms of media coverage, how quick people tend to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think people moved on from the bubble championship that quick. Maybe because it was in the middle of a pandemic, but they didn't move on from
Mm-hmm.
that quick. Now they just want to discredit it, but can't take away a banner, can't take away a championship, no matter who tries to discredit it. Um, but now you see these talking heads, Mr. Smith, Kendrick Perkins and company, backtracking, like the whole people like me and you and everybody else haven't been saying what Boston really was the entire time. I'm like, bro, they lost 3 games the entire playoff. You know how hard that is to do? And then you get met with, well, Jason Kidd is a better coach and da 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 da, and a whole bunch of other hoopla that we've heard through this entire finals run about the Mavericks. They're still talking about the Mavericks when Boston won the championship. Make it make sense. Where they do that at? ESPN. But
Yep.
it's just it makes me mad because I've seen like Boston has played a pretty good brand of basketball all season. There's a reason why they won 64 games. They put it together. And once you had Kristaps Porzingis, it was like, but they're getting disrespected. And throughout the playoffs, it was the week of the East and da 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 da. When they've won key moments, they were talking about the other team not winning instead of the actual team that won. All the way down to Indiana. And then you got people bringing up Indiana during the Maverick series. This is not the Pacers. We are not talking about front runners, even though the Mavericks can be kind of front runners too. But the whole thing, I'm proud of Boston. I'm proud of what they were. Like they always seem to be like a piece or two short or a coaching decision or two short. I'm proud they've been able to put it together. It shows the growth of everybody as a team who knows their role. It shows the growth of a coach, whether or not people like to give that man his credit or not. As an organization, this is a well-built team and they get punished for it, and I can't stand it. Excuse my long-windedness.
Oh, you good. You good. I mean, look, you touched on a lot of things I probably might overlap a little bit here, but I find it kind of funny that a lot of the analysts who, like you said, downplayed what they did, downplayed their path and everything like that. Now that they have won it all, they're trying to pull a 180 and now talk about how dominant the team was. I mean, I feel like we've talked about on other shows, Greeny loves kind of pretending like he didn't say stuff before. But the fact that he did like a Greeny list and was just rattling off all these stats and everything that showed how dominant they were, my initial thought listening to it was, okay, so everybody on your network, all these other like Fox Sports and all these other people who knew that these stats were there, they weren't just made up, a lot of people still picked the Mavs. And I get it because they ran with some narrative that the West is so much tougher. So the team that came out of the West would obviously be in a better position to win a title. If that's, that was the thinking, fine. Everybody has their reasons for their opinion. But to completely like shoot down what the Celtics did after, like you said, 64-18, several games ahead of everybody, even in the West, in terms of best record, dismantling Miami, even though they didn't have Jimmy Butler. But we need to stop overrating Jimmy Butler because I've told a lot of Heat fans, because Heat fans love discrediting the Celtics, that Jimmy Butler in that series, they still lose it. I don't care if maybe it goes 6 games, they still lose the series. So Jimmy Butler not being there, I don't want to hear that part of it. I mean, do a whole other segment on Jimmy Butler because the fact that they're always a play-in team or an 8 seed, but he's so great, I get it. Then they face Cleveland, who, Donovan Mitchell is a guy that a lot of NBA analysts love his game. I mean, we saw in Utah, he had some pretty good teams around him that couldn't get over the hump. I never really believed in Cleveland, and we saw how that series went. But they said, hey, Donovan Mitchell only played a couple of games. They lost the games he played in, so I'm assuming they were going to lose the games. If he continued on the series, they would have lost that series anyway. Indiana, who, like the Celtics, was discredited because they had to face everybody's darling in the Knicks, because they're all picking the Knicks to beat the Pacers. Then when the Pacers beat the Knicks, it was, well, the Knicks will beat up. Once again, things you knew before that series, and a lot of people were still picking the Knicks. Now, a lot of the stuff against the Celtics was almost like, I don't know, apologies to Kyrie Irving, especially talking about Stephen A. and Perk, like they went in on Kyrie a couple of years ago. And now because Kyrie's in a situation that he was playing well, you didn't hear anything about him off the court. Seemed like he was in a really good spot. Now everybody wanted to, back away from those comments a couple of years ago and now support Kyrie, which I definitely think fueled a lot of people's predictions, with going with the Mavs in this series. The wildest one was like a Nick Wright who picked the Mavs in 5. I have no idea how you look at these two teams and think the Mavs were going to be able to do what the Celtics did to the Mavs and beat them in 5. That was wild to me. We heard them overrating Kyrie and Luka's defense. We saw what the Celtics attacked them. Other than game 4, when everybody overreacted to that blowout loss, which the other 4 games, the Celtics handled Dallas. So I watched game 4 and said, clearly the Celtics were like, we're up 3-0. Like, we'll go out there, we'll go through the motions. If we're in this game late, we'll go ahead and win it. If we lose, okay, so y'all got one. We're going back to Boston where your second best player still can't play. We're fine. And that's what happened in game 5. Kyrie no-showed once again. But, he showed his sportsmanship going over to the Celtics bench with like 3 minutes to go in the game, dapping up everybody and then walking off. But Dallas was always going to be an inferior team to Boston. It's just that no one wanted to pay attention to it. And that's on them, not on like you or I, who obviously were picking the Celtics to win the series because of the dominance of Boston and the issues that we saw going forward with a team like Dallas that relies heavily on Luka and Kyrie creating for everybody, unlike the Celtics that can play as a collective group. But I think you're trying to jump in here. I'll let you go ahead.
I was like, that's why I call Nick Wright Nick wrong, because he's usually wrong. He does nothing but pump up the Chiefs, disrespect my team, and spew out foolishness on Fox Sports. That's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, he stands behind his wild takes all the way to the end. I guess you got to give him credit for that. But yeah, a lot of his takes are just wild.
Like having Caleb Williams top 5 already, ain't played a snap.
Yeah, I don't get that one. Yeah.
I'm like, bro. But back to Boston, I'm like, and then even with the fans that are pulling for the Mavericks,
mm-hmm.
Might not even be Mavericks fans.
No.
They irked me. And it's a handful of them. A handful. Because they act like their defense to anything you say good about Boston is what about Luka? Luka and Kyrie are rolling. Even when Kyrie decided not to show up part of the last series.
That was forgotten. A lot of people glossed over the fact that he did struggle against Minnesota. But they won, so nobody cared.
These people expect water to be turned into wine when it comes to Kyrie. And he's very good at it in the regular season. He's a champion, so he knows what it takes. But clearly, since he left Cleveland, Boston, whatever, he's a journeyman at this point. His playoff success and his effectiveness in the playoffs has gone down, and nobody really wants to talk about that. But when it comes down, when we're trying to uplift Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the first thing I'm hearing from people who are pulling from the Mavericks is something about Luka. Like, can I give one credit without the other without giving the other one? Because with Luka, I want him to get in shape, stop fouling, and do something worthwhile on defense before I talk about him in the same light as I talk about Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
What about Luka? When Jaylen Brown is arguably one of the best two-way players in the game of basketball right now. Like what?
Yeah. I don't get it either. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, they're called boring. I get it. If you're just looking at Tatum, where it's all about his son and his mom, yeah, it's pretty boring. It's also pretty mature. He's staying out of trouble and performing on the court. Okay, Jaylen Brown. I guess if you're not down for his demeanor, as Stephen A's source said, that's fine. But then you saw kind of a transformation in him in the playoffs where we're seeing him like swear post game interviews and everything. Like he no longer cares. And the rest of the league might need to be put on notice because we saw a very motivated Jaylen Brown in the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, actually most of these playoffs, and he became really dominant. You know, the audio when he was mic'd up telling Missoula like he's sticking Luka, he got into Luka, full court press, got a couple of steals on him, like he made it tough on him, which is why I do think he, got the Finals MVP was because of his defense. I get that. It was pivotal in the series, even though, Tatum's numbers, if you're looking at them, were better, but I feel like that pushed it over for some of the voters, and I'm not mad at that. I do think it is funny where the narrative about the Celtics was your turn, my turn basketball. It's a league where we talk about superstars dominate the league, but these are two guys that share credit, love playing with each other. But now it's, well, which one's better? We have to know which one's better. Who's the number one? Who's the number two? And it's like, why does that matter? Why can't there be a 1A, 1B, and be okay with it? Maybe they don't have the ego that, oh, this needs to be my team and you need to be my Robin. If for some reason it's like they're getting killed for that because they're saying, well, Tatum doesn't have the dog in him because clearly Jaylen Brown has it. But then these are the same people who laughed at Jaylen Brown last year in Game 7 with all the turnovers and called him no left hand, mocked him for the contract, Stephen A. I remember that episode when he looked at it and he said, oh, dear Lord. But now he's acting like he's the biggest Jaylen Brown fan. So I don't get this 180 like people aren't paying attention. Like we know what all of you said about this team. And now your narratives have to change. I mean, look, Stephen A went on vacation as soon as they won it. I turned in the first take. I'm looking at Bart Scott on my TV, which automatically turned it off. I'm not listening to that guy talk football. No, never. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say for them. It's like this is a team you should celebrate. Did it the right way, but they don't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Who call themselves policing fandom. I've seen several posts throughout the playoffs, and has been a victim of this myself. Of you're a such and such fan, you shouldn't be rooting for Boston or talking good about them. Stop acting like people ain't got a goddamn mind of their own. I like good basketball. People act like this is boring. This is the worst finals. It's good basketball on one end, on the part of one team. I can't talk about Dallas because they had one good game. They did not have a good finals.
Right.
And that's just gonna be quite frank. But don't sit here and try to tell everybody, regardless of who their actual allegiances is, to not root for somebody because of the other team who's not even relevant. If I don't have a dog in the fight, I root for whoever the hell I want to root for. And the idiots on social media who do that are just miserable. Mm-hmm. And y'all need to stop doing that shit. Because it's like, excuse me.
It's all good.
Infuriating. Because who
Friday,
are
we're
you?
letting loose.
Like, who are you to sit here and type up with them fat ass thumbs on Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot to sit there and type? If you're a da fan, you shouldn't be rooting for the Celtics. I'm a Lakers fan. I root for whoever the hell I want to root for. I like watching good basketball. Period.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole notion that this child notion that these fans have grow up is 2024. Most of us are saying we can differentiate between a fandom and good basketball. Nobody, you don't have a place to tell anybody who they should and should not be rooting for. And the unlabored audacity to get on social media and tweet them that type of crap is really mind-boggling. Because who the hell are y'all? And now I'm done.
Oh, I mean that was well said because it turned into like Knicks fans, Heat fans, um, was it Knicks, Heat, some Laker fans, Bucks fans, like they all just turned on the Celtics. I mean, if you're a Lakers fan, I can understand you don't want the Celtics to break the tie. Fine. But when I'm sitting there tuning into a post game or half game or halftime, and I'm looking at Josh Hart, Joel Embiid, or ESPN pulling out Udonis Haslem, these are all people, or Julius Randle, these are all people who have rooting interest in not picking the Celtics, but they're going to sit there and break down the deficiencies of the Celtics and pump up Dallas. I mean, the Joel Embiid one, I almost, I mean, part of me was like, I guess he's supposed to act like, the Celtics aren't dominant because I didn't play. Newsflash, you've played the Celtics in the playoffs quite a few times and haven't been able to beat them. I mean, you can point to running mates because obviously Harden wasn't gonna be there for him. But I mean, he was in a position up 3-2 against the Celtics, had a game 6 in your home floor. Tatum couldn't buy a bucket. Y'all couldn't win that game. And then y'all turned around in game 7 and quit. But Joel Embiid's going to tell us that because he wasn't healthy, the Celtics had an easy run. But look, he had a microphone in his face. He could say whatever he wants. But I thought it was laughable.
And
I mean, Keith, you're tuning in. I know that's your guy, but that was laughable for him to say.
He a damn lie. Maybe he wouldn't be so hurt if he kept his feet on the floor. We don't need to know what the bottom of your shoes look like all the time, Joel. Maybe fix that for a few times. Maybe stop flopping so goddamn much. You're too big for that. We get on Luka about that, but Joel got that pretty bad too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we spent about 25 minutes on the Celtics. I feel like we've exhausted it to a certain extent. I mean, we're not going to do like the media and completely disregard them. We gave them their due. I know we have a bunch of other topics to get into, so let's go ahead and jump to the next one. Now, this one hits closer to you as a Lakers fan. The Lakers finally made a decision on their coach. They told us the deadline was a draft. They beat the deadline. The draft is in, was it like 5 days, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah.
We kind of finished where we started because when we first heard about the job opening, JJ Redick's name was one of the very first names we heard. Then turned to Dan Hurley. Then like Borrego was talked about, some others, but Dan Hurley pulls out, and now back to JJ Redick. He's going to get a 4-year deal. So I'm gonna let you go ahead. Your thoughts on the JJ Redick signing, and now that he's in place, what do you want Pelinka and the Lakers to do to make it successful for him?
Now, I will admit, I did not have a good initial reaction to the Lakers choosing JJ Redick. I didn't like it. But that was me being an emotional Lakers fan because I really wanted Coach Bud. And I was not over that yet. I didn't care about Hurley. Whatever. He's an unknown to me. I know he's a great college coach, but
Mm-hmm.
he's unknown to me. I wanted a coach with some experience. And then I sat and thought about it. I'm like, JJ has great playing experience. He has a great basketball mind. My questions are, is he going to be able to maintain that locker room with those personalities? Um, how's he going to be able to really run the floor as a coach? I question that, but I want the Lakers to give this man a fair chance. Don't just fire him after this year and next year. Let's not keep doing that because that's what dysfunctional teams do. Give this man his whole contract, and if you don't like it by the end of the fourth year, you don't have to extend him. But at the same time, what you also need to do is surround this man with some actual talent. I hope D'Angelo Russell goes elsewhere. I know you can package Christian Wood, Torian Prince, and that other person that just does nothing but run around and do cardio and occasionally do a dunk for some draft picks or for a quality player with your five. We don't know what LeBron is going to do. He opted out. He's probably going to opt out. And I'm like, good riddance. Goodbye. Anthony Davis, go get another star that's more consistent because D'Angelo Russell is not a star. He is a overglorified, non-defense playing role player. No, not non-defense, selective defense, which is worse. He does it when he wants to do it.
Right.
He
Yep.
got all that mouth. I hope he leaves. He can't come back. He can kick, let the door hit him on the way out. He can kick rocks. Just kick rocks. The Lakers need stability. They need consistency. We found out last year. Anthony Davis can be oddly consistent. What about everybody else? We know what LeBron is, and if he comes back, he'll be somewhat consistent, even though he's pushing 40 something. They need to build this team around what JJ wants, but I also hope we keep the other two starters because I love me some Reeves and some Hachimura, who both got paid last year. So I'm like, let them see how he fits them into their system. And if he doesn't like him at the trade deadline, I'm okay with it. But give him a chance. Damn it. But yeah, they
Yeah.
just
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, like I think with when you're looking at JJ Redick, there's two schools of thought. Like he's retired player, broadcaster, coach, no previous experience. It has been done before. When Doc Rivers got the Magic job, he walked in right off of TNT, got that job, won Coach of the Year his first season. I mean, if you want to look at the Celtics, Joe Mazzulla went from random guy on the bench to head coach, wins a title his second season. So there are instances where inexperienced coaches are able to work some magic and have some success. There are the other, there's the other side to it where you get inexperienced coaches that come in, just never find their way, and they're dismissed. Whether it's prematurely, they're just dismissed early. Steve Nash, Brooklyn, that whole situation, he was scapegoated pretty much. He was gone. I'm trying to think of some others. I don't know if you maybe throw like Luke Walton in there as a guy who somewhat inexperienced. He had a little bit of success with like Golden State in an interim term, but he was never really a really good head coach. So the thing's gonna be like, what exactly is JJ Redick the coach like? We know what he was as a player, we know what he was as an analyst, but as a coach, like, is his specialty going to be out of timeout plays, X's and O's, motivating players? Like, we'll have to see that, and that's why you're saying he's going to need some stability, some backing, because the first season, I get it. You're in LA. You're with the Lakers. There's always expectations, especially. I know you said if LeBron comes back. Look. We've seen him do this. The whole opt out. Everybody goes crazy, like, "Oh my God, could he actually leave?" And he just resigns for whatever the asking price is. Oh, say it again. I'm sure there's several Lakers fans that would love to see him go somewhere else and do whatever with that franchise. I wonder though if it's something where Redick is there. Obviously, he has the connection with LeBron from the podcast. If it's not a complete success early on, would Pelinka in the front office jump the gun and possibly, because I heard Colin Cowherd floated the idea that if it's not working early, moving Anthony Davis. And I think Perk somewhat said the same thing, but he kind of went about it as, if it doesn't work early, he wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Davis asked out, if it seems like it's LeBron centric and he's not being featured. I think the Kendrick Perkins part of it is probably more plausible, because all we heard was the next hiring is supposed to be because of Anthony Davis. I mean, you hired the co-host on on a podcast with LeBron. It seems like it was a LeBron move. And all this talk with Bronny, that's the LeBron thing. And if I'm Anthony Davis, it's like,
I'm sick of
I mean, I'm younger. I'm the one who played 72 games last year. LeBron didn't play 72 games. So shouldn't we be building towards a team around me? So it's almost like mixed messages. But of course, once the games start, we'll see how it works out. I do have a question for you. What do you think is more likely, that we get another 72 game season out of Anthony Davis, or we get a better version of D'Angelo Russell?
We get another 72 game season out of Anthony Davis. Okay. I will take that over anything with D'Angelo Russell. And I was done with him. It was before the play-in. I was finished with him. People had to keep telling me to calm down and to be level-headed. And I'm like, I was done with him then. And then he did what he did versus Denver, and I was even doner. Because he did nothing. But when I think about it, because it was supposed to be, I thought they were literally asking Anthony Davis about his input and whatnot. I feel like this could work though, if they get somebody who Anthony Davis really likes as an assistant. It depends on who JJ's staff is going to be. Because sometimes assistant coaches can kind of be that buffer between the player and the head coach that might butt heads or might not see eye to eye. If they got good quality assistant coaches, maybe people who's been there, because I've heard Rajon Rondo's name being in the mix and company. Anthony Davis just played with Rondo not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So I'm like, if you get people who Anthony Davis can feel comfortable around and not make him feel like he's been slighted the entire time, you'll get an engaged AD. I'm not worried about that. They just have to do it. And my confidence in the Lakers front office doing anything remotely competent has been shot.
Yeah. I, now, look, as a Celtics fan, I'm not going to be necessarily concerned with what goes on in LA, but we do know that if it's not going well, there's a history of LeBron teams getting rid of young talent. And like you said, there are going to have to be some moves on this roster to get them in a better position than they were this season with the first round exit. Are you worried that that would mean Reeves, Rui, or both being moved because they are the more valuable players on the team? Are you worried about that in any way?
If they do that, I will not watch Laker basketball. Because I see them as key pieces when they're on. I see them as valuable key pieces that you keep them there. Considering what I've seen in the playoffs with this year, past year, and with last year, keeping Rui and Anthony Davis on the court together, you're gonna get good things that come out of it. I can make that assumption pretty clear. I feel like I'm not going to beat on a dead horse. I feel like they're valuable key pieces that need to be in the rotation. Go get rid of some of the garbage. If you get rid of a whole bunch of garbage, you can get a quality person. We got plenty of trash on this roster. Do I need to name names? Gabe Vincent can go back to Miami where he came from. Well, we can agree to disagree. I would like to keep them in purple and gold. Maybe because I fell in love with them throughout the whole playoff mania that they had going on. We can agree to disagree. But the other pieces of trash, like Prince, Gabe Vincent can go back to Miami where he came from. I don't know why Jackson Hayes still has a roster spot. The other light skin. There's another one that I don't like. D'Angelo Russell, we already know that I was done with him mid-season. So he can walk out the door. I don't even want anything for him. I'll give his ass away for 2 pennies for free. Take him. If you could package all those players and send them out and get at least 2 good quality players, I'm fine. And then we'll probably with the 2 draft picks that we have, with 2 of our draft picks, I don't like him. He does nothing. He can go. And with his luck, he can go and be great somewhere else. But he's been nothing but a waste of a spot for me. That kind of ruined my thought process. Hold on.
I mean, you were talking about the other pieces, and I guess basically who needed to go, who should be part of the future with Redick and their coaching staff, which I do think is key, because if you're gonna bring him basically the same roster, then your expectations need to be tempered in terms of JJ Redick as the coach. Like, don't think just because they made the switch to him that he's going to take the same roster and go further than Darvin Ham took him. That shouldn't be expected. If it does happen, then sure, but you have to be realistic with it. Mo said the issue is D'Lo is going to opt out, so let him walk with nothing in return or agree on a sign and trade.
He can go for free. Free.
Well, I mean,
be free.
The sign and trade is a good tool if you obviously aren't going to keep them. You send them out, whether it's to get like an end of the bench guy on a team or something like that, just for a body. It is a way to do it, and I don't know.
If I could get something of quality, The second
Yeah,
that it's dry, he needs to be up out of Los Angeles. God damn it. I'm tired
yeah,
of
you
him.
can move him for second round pick or something. You could use a second round pick with another pick to move up or something like that. Like there's ways to turn him into an asset without just letting him walk. I mean, I see where Mo's coming from because I saw that like Grant Williams. Grant Williams clearly wasn't going to be part of the Celtics' plans. They did a sign and trade with him to Dallas, which allowed them to kind of maneuver and do some other things. So I agree that a sign and trade would make more sense. You just have to find a partner for him, and there are a lot of poorly
Send,
run teams in the NBA that you can find a partner for him.
send him to the Hawks. Then they'll have a team of no defense.
I mean, the good old Hawks. Although, look, the Hawks are being linked to the Lakers like every day. Every day I'm seeing somebody talk about a Trae Young trade, DeJounte Murray trade, and
I don't want ice tray. I don't want the water tray. I don't want him. If they're gonna do anything, I will give up Reeves and Prince for DeJounte. I will do that.
okay. So DeJounte Murray would let you, you'd be fine giving up Austin Reeves if
Yes.
it brought you DeJounte Murray. Okay.
But
Would you give up Reeves and Hachimura?
no.
Okay. I wouldn't either, but
That's a
I know
little
you like those two, so I wanted to see. Cause that's kind of where my next question was going to go. Like, what type of player would it take to get rid of one or both of those? So DeJounte Murray is one. Okay.
and I don't want to see Rui in basketball purgatory that is Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm not giving up both. I will give you one. And I will give you Prince and Christian Wood on top of that. They can really run the floor with no defense then. Um,
So is there a player you would give up both for?
name me a few names, and I'll tell you yes or no.
I mean, obviously, it would never happen as a, you know, within the same city. Paul George.
I want playoff success. The things that Paul George has said recently, he can get one. I'll give up.
Uh, let's say, I'm trying to think of a big name player who would probably look to get out.
Now, Dame Lillard was
I was gonna say
top
Bradley Beal, but I wouldn't no, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Uh, let's say randomly, Kevin Durant wants out of Phoenix. Would you build a package around those two? Obviously, we need some more picks and everything like that to bring a Kevin Durant to LA. No, okay.
because
Yeah,
he
I mean he's a little older.
was,
I'll try to think of a younger star. Donovan Mitchell.
ooh, you got me there. You may have. I might have to. But Donovan Mitchell has his times in the playoffs, and sometimes he's not available. So both would be an ask. And I'm damn sure not giving up both of them for Klay Thompson. No, no, no. Why would I get rid of one of them with some size to go get smaller?
Right.
I completely agree with you, Mo. And the day he roll out, I'll be rolling his carpet out with him. Bye.
But we know the issue with that is Palinka and Bus, all them wouldn't want to deal with the media pushback or the fan pushback if like Braun opted out and they didn't want him back.
Some of these goddamn fans ain't got no sense. And I'm not talking about you, Mo. You have sense. But some of these Lakers fans act like some of these Lakers fans aren't real Laker fans. They're LeBron stands disguised as Laker fans. Let's keep that a buck.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait till he leave so they can be wherever he at fans, wherever the heck he go next.
Anthony brings up Devin Booker.
No. They
Okay.
Reeves and Rui play defense. Booker, he's scrappy, and I like his shooting ability, and he gives up too much size. He's small. I need my bigs.
Mo says if Rob wanted Braun out, all he would have to do is tell him no for once. I mean, that's easier said than done. There's one guy who told LeBron no. That was Pat Riley. And look what happened. LeBron bounced. And Pat Riley didn't lose any sleep because Pat Riley understands, like, I'm going to run things my way. I'm not going to have you, dictate, because, the report was LeBron wanted Spoelstra fired and everything like that. He wanted, like, special privileges and everything. And Pat Riley was like, no. I mean, Pat Riley's kind of doing that with Jimmy Butler now, which I think is hilarious. But I respect Pat Riley. I kind of like it, but most of the book is soft. So I guess Mo agrees with you. Yeah, it wouldn't do it for Devin Booker.
I get Dame Lillard, but Dame and defense don't go together. But Dame Lillard, maybe.
Okay, that's interesting.
No, now that I think about that, no. I had to really let my basketball analysis take over my fangirl side of my brain. And I'm like, no. At least the other two played better defense.
Well, I don't know if, like, looking at the past finals, you had two players in Luka and Kyrie, not the best defensively, and they got their team to the finals.
And what happened in the finals?
I mean, that's true, but getting to the finals is a big step. You got to get there in order to try to win it.
The reason why I agree to the finals is because most of those teams had players that you can hide Luka's defensive efforts on.
Yes.
Like Minnesota had Kyle Anderson. What are you expecting from Kyle Anderson? Oklahoma City had Lou Dort.
Mm-hmm.
You can hide
I'm not going to lie, though. I'm not going to lie. Kyle Anderson has lasted a lot longer than I thought he was going to. I give him all the credit. Like, when I first saw him play, I was like, this guy's going to be gone in a couple of years. And the fact that he's still going on and is like a key contributor on a team that was in the Western Conference Finals, he does something right. I mean, he plays at like he's in reverse, basically, or neutral, while everybody's in like fifth gear. But he has found a way to carve out roster spots everywhere he goes. Mo said right, but the Mavs had a great run. I don't see them back there next season.
Me either. Because I'm like, those teams you could put Luka on the worst offensive player ever and hide his defensive effort. Boston, when you have people who can switch and you have people who can go upstairs at any given moment, no, that ain't gonna cut. Like in the playoff, your biggest weakness gets exasperated.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Here we keep it going with our next topic. So look, the NBA offseason has already kicked off with not only coaching news with JJ Redick, but we got a trade. Josh Giddey going to the Bulls. Caruso headed to the Thunder. Hold on. Mo did put in, I'm a Laker fan. I'm so happy for Drew. Yeah. So your initial thoughts on this deal, who do you think's the winner in this trade?
The Thunder. I think the Thunder are the clear-cut winners because it was a flat-out player swap, and you send somebody who struggles with actually playing the basketball to Chicago, who really don't have aspirations of winning a title anytime soon.
Right.
And you add bolstering up your defense. And Caruso can shoot the three, too. I would like a Caruso. I don't know why you know what? We're not going to dish up the Lakers getting rid of people they shouldn't have got rid of. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a good value trade. Now, if I'm DeMar DeRozan if I'm DeMar DeRozan, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, get me up out of here, bro. Get me up out of here. Because it's clear that Chicago has no intentions of winning. What is Giddey going to do for Chicago? Cardio? Make an occasional bucket when he struggles at playing the game of basketball? I don't think their intention is to win. I think their intention is to load up on bad talent, to tank, to get a high draft pick, and then rebuild. I might sound like an idiot, but I'm not far off.
No, I mean I'm right there with you. Giddey has become an interesting NBA player because it seemed like there was a lot of hype around him when he first got to Oklahoma City, where he was kind of a triple-double guy every once in a while. I feel like the jump shot was never really there, but he just seemed like a really versatile offensive player. Now it's like he's just lost everything. I mean, he lost his starting job, I mean, rightfully, to better players, but it's almost like Giddey's now going to become like a journeyman. Because I do think there is skill there, and I agree with you in terms of DeRozan, Levine, those guys. But I also think this is probably a move where Chicago's finally going to put up the for sale sign and finally just break it up. Like, I'm assuming Levine's going to be gone. DeRozan should be gone. Who was Drummond there? Like, guys like that, if they're free agents, you don't bring them back. You know, you go ahead with Giddey, some other young players. Like you said, the wins won't be there, but Chicago just has to pick a direction because they've had these bigger name guys, yet they're just fighting for a playing spot, which that's basically purgatory at this point. So you either bottom out or push forward. And they haven't been able to do the latter. So this seems like the first move of probably a couple of moves to just completely rip the Band-Aid off. You know what? I mean, if you're going into next season with like Giddey, Kobe White, with Patrick Williams, which that draft pick is looking more and more like a way, overreach, miss, whatever you want to throw at that pick. But yeah, but maybe you can salvage something out of him. You just use next season as player evaluation. Who's going to be part of the next iteration of the Bulls as you try to build it back up? I mean, they can look at Orlando, some of these other younger teams that were bad for a little bit, and all it took was hitting on a couple of draft picks and then moving up. It should give Bulls fans some type of hope. I mean, you got to look at the front office and hope they can actually do it correctly. But yeah, I do agree with you that the Thunder won this trade because at least with Caruso, you know what he is. He's a wing defender. He'll get you a bucket and get out in transition and all that good stuff. And with Giddey, it just seemed like they had no room for Giddey anymore. Mo says, feel sorry for Giddey. He has a nice skill set, but he's not your first, second, or third best player. Yes.
I don't feel bad for him. He's lucky he got a job.
True. Yes. In a way, Giddey is a better version of Slow-Mo, but there was too much hype around him early in his career. I mean, he and Slow-Mo kind of shoot the same way. Giddey has like a really weird set shot that seems kind of disjointed and maybe just him in Chicago where he'll kind of just be in obscurity. Maybe he finds a better version of his game. Go say it again.
Maybe he can refine his game in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Sometimes it works for players. I mean, looking at his numbers in his 3 seasons, he averaged 29 minutes, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. That's not terrible in any way. This past season, dipped a little bit, 12 points, 6.5 boards, 4.8 assists, and his minutes went down to 25 minutes. So, yeah, maybe he can regain some credibility around the league. Bulls won't be his last stop. I feel like you're going to probably hear every couple of years, maybe even by the trade deadline, you might hear Giddey on the move somewhere else. All right.
The Bulls were hurt. I feel like Kobe White will have a lot of value, and they can get a pretty decent haul for him if they really just want to blow it up.
I kind of think they're going to use Kobe White as the guy to build around. He had a really good year last year, and now if you can move DeRozan, Levine, Drummond off that team, it fully is Kobe White's team, and then you try to just rebuild around him. Like, he's still young enough that if it takes a couple of seasons, you're not going to waste his prime or anything like that. I feel like that's what this is probably signaling, that they're going to shift towards a Kobe White-centric Bulls squad. We'll see what that looks like.
Just like this, start over.
Got to do it. Them, Raptors, a lot of these teams need to do it. Hopefully the Bulls are like fully committed to it now. Let's go. Next one.
Pistons.
I mean, you were just about to bring up the Pistons. Here you go. Monty Williams. He signs that big deal last year. This offseason, the Pistons are like, yeah, you remember that 20-something game losing streak? Yeah, I think we're kind of good on you. And Monty was probably like, so y'all going to pay me 60-something million to sit at home? And they're like, yeah, pretty much. So Monty's out there. I guess for him, it's going to be whether or not he just wants to sit around and collect his money, or, go to a coaching staff or an opportunity that he obviously would love to be a part of, sign for a little bit of money because he's still getting the Detroit money. But looking at this, was it the right decision after one season to kick Monty Williams out the door?
The logic, well, yeah, because they saved him from being a part of a dumpster fire of an organization. This is exactly what I mean by dysfunctional organizations move like this. You hired a man last year, you fire him 5 days before the draft. Y'all probably already had conversations on how y'all was going to build this team, and then you fire him a week before the draft. Who does that? That's just about as asinine as the Lakers hiring a coach the week of the draft. I mean, it's worse because you already had what type of pieces he wanted. You already had a plan. You knew his plan. You had meetings. Why wasn't this done earlier? Now, he's been fired twice in 2 years. Yeah. I kind of feel bad for him. But Phoenix, it had hit a wall in Phoenix because he had Sharman Ultrasoft and DeAndre Ayton and company. Mm-hmm. And then you give him a bunch of not that analogy. You give him a loaf of bread, a stick of butter, and some salad, and you expect him to make spaghetti with it. Who is doing that? You gave that man Killian Hayes, for crying out loud. As much as I get on D'Angelo Russell, he showed up. Killian Hayes, what does he do? There's a reason why he got cut in the middle of the season. I mean, I can get Monty Williams' questionable coaching decisions and whatnot, but this man was given grass and expected to win a champion, at least bring it out the gutter with pretty much the roster, the way the Pistons roster is built. Everybody pretty much does the exact same damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have no variation. You got all bigs. Well, you got all ball dominant people who need to see the ball. You really don't have a lot of bigs. You haven't been a functional organization for at least a decade. I feel bad for Monty because he got fired from his second straight team, but he got $85 million in dead money that he could just sit around and do absolutely nothing. He don't have to get a job if he don't want to. But I
You
also
go to
feel like
TV.
it's for him to get out from under that mess that is the Pistons.
The only pushback I will have is because you did bring up Killian Hayes. Monty was the one giving him minutes over Jaden Ivey. And that I feel like led to this. Because I remember so many nights looking at a box score, because obviously when they were going through that losing streak, wondering how come Jaden Ivey wasn't really playing as much. Because look, the Pistons weren't going to, win a title or anything last year. They brought Monty in to try to bring some stability, bring a winning nature to a young group that has only known losing. So he comes in, they lose the 20-something games, but the Killian Hayes constantly getting minutes when we all know what Killian Hayes is. He's a guy that I feel like was advertised as I think he was advertised as a scorer and a defender. Defending, sure, but his jump shot is I don't know how you fix it. I can't remember a jump shot Killian Hayes has made. But for some reason, Monty kept putting his name out there. And I think he was starting sometimes. He was, all at the expense of Jaden Ivey, who the Pistons took with a pretty high pick. The point of Monty Williams was put Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, figure out the rest. And for some reason, Monty Williams had an issue with Jaden Ivey and kicked him to the side. I mean, you brought up, Sharman Soft, DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix. That was an issue with another young player. So going forward, is it an issue with Monty Williams and younger players? And if that is an actual problem, I don't see what team necessarily hires him when you're in a increasingly younger league. I just don't know. Like, is he trying to do the Doc Rivers? Because we know Doc Rivers hates rebuilds, hates playing young players. He loves veteran-laden teams. And that's probably what Monty Williams may strive for in his next job. But it's like looking around, those teams are like few and far between. And most of them have a coach that they're successful with. So I don't know necessarily, unless Monty changes his approach with younger players, where does he see himself getting another job next? I don't know.
Coach.
I mean, yeah.
Not about the money. He got plenty of it to just throw away. He can come give me $1 or $2, That works too. But he got plenty of money. He can be an assistant. And like Mo said, the Pistons are going nowhere fast. It makes sense. They're going nowhere. Like before, they had a whole bunch of people who needed to touch the ball. Before then, they were just big and no ball movement. Mm-hmm. It's like, can we please just build a balanced team? It's like I know he had those bad coaching decisions, but when you give him that kind of a roster where you have 2 good players and the rest of them ain't as good as my shoelace, I don't really blame the man.
I mean, yeah, it's
the Killian Hayes stuff. Now that you got a point with.
Yes.
Because that was a choice. Keep putting Killian Hayes out there knowing he does nothing that is remotely acceptable to as a quality NBA player. Even coming off the bench, he does nothing well. That's
Yeah.
a choice to keep putting him out there. And I get that. But the rest of it, man.
Well, okay, so they have Trajan Langdon, who, to be honest with you, I did not know that name was ever going to be uttered in an NBA conversation, but he's running things in Detroit now. I do think that they had good intentions bringing in Monty Williams because they do have a lot of young guys, and I think they wanted to use him to figure out which young guys to build with. Because you have Jalen Duren, who at the center position seems like something you can work with. You have Cade Cunningham. I feel like he's had some injury issues, but when he's on the court, obviously he is your number one. They drafted, was it Asar Thompson, one of the Thompson twins. You kind of need to see what you have there. The James Wiseman aspect, I don't know what he is. Like he didn't work in Golden State because he was never available. I mean, he was in Detroit where nobody was paying attention to him. I feel like I didn't hear a lot about him, so it's not like
He didn't play much.
necessarily seizing the opportunity there either. Jaden Ivey talked about. They got Quentin Grimes, who the Knicks couldn't move him for Donovan Mitchell, but they moved him to Detroit for, was it Bogdanovich? Marcus Sasser, who I remember at, was it Houston? Pretty good player there. So you should be able to do something with him. Isaiah Stewart, I think they're looking to move him. I'm not necessarily sold on him. I don't understand why they have him taking corner threes now all of a sudden. I don't get that.
He needs to be
But
back.
they have exactly, but that's where he was, and then he started developing a 3-point shot. Then you had guys like Evan Fournier, who is still somehow getting an NBA check, but then he'll go play for France and look like Michael Jordan. And they had Taj Gibson. Once again, who remembered Taj Gibson played in the NBA last year? So whoever the next coach is, like, that's what they're going to deal with. Plus another draft pick this year, which, as Mo said, you already have enough young players. I don't think adding another young one's going to help the situation in any way. So move the pick. If you have to move it with a player, do it. I don't know. Yeah.
No,
Pistons basketball was the thing in the early 90s and, with the Billups Pistons, but now it's like it's hard to find where the direction is.
They are a hot mess. A bunch of mumbled up, jumbo hot mess. They don't know where they want to go. They don't know what they want to do. They move like they're incompetent and they don't know how to make a decision and stick to it. Yeah. They're confusing. And there's a reason why they only won, 20-something games? If that.
Actually, how many did they win? 20 might be on the high end. I don't know. I think they had a pretty bad season. I hope they probably got to at least 20. Let's see. What was theirs? Hold on. Looking it up. Here we go. Detroit was 14-68. Yeah, they did not get to 20 wins. Okay.
Wait a minute. That's real?
Yes. Because when you said 20, I was like, I have a feeling it was less. I mean, 14 is kind of like way less than 20. So yeah, 14-68. They finished 50 games worse than the Celtics, which wild to think about. So yeah, the next coach obviously is going to have zero expectations. So they should buy them 3 to 5 years to dig themselves out of whatever chasm that this is. I mean, they finished the game behind the Wizards. So take that for what it's worth.
Think about the Wizards. Watching them highlights gave me a headache.
Right. So we'll see where Monty ends up and who Detroit decides to fill that position with. I'm sure we'll probably hear some names like James Borrego, maybe Sam Cassell. I don't know. We'll just see.
They should try to keep Sam Cassell around.
I don't want him to go anywhere, but something tell because you know how it goes. You win a title, teams that are desperate for a coach will start looking at the staff and go, "Who can we pry away?" I mean, Charles Lee's already going to Charlotte, so if Detroit wanted to go Sam Cassell seems like a Detroit kind of mentality. I feel like Pistons fans would love to see Sam Cassell there. I hope he stays with Joe Mazzulla, but we'll see. All right, we're switching WNBA because it seems like when you talk Caitlin Clark, a lot of the Caitlin Clark people want to bring Angel Reese into the conversation. Now it seems like Angel Reese is kind of creating her own topics now in terms of her play. Some people love it. Obviously, she has those that hate it because they hated it in LSU. They're obviously going to hate it in Chicago. So I know this was a topic that you wanted to bring up, so I'll let you go ahead and start it, introduce it.
People, when it comes to Angel Reese, they fail to realize really what type of player she is because they get on her about her shooting percentage and stuff like that. I'm like, she's developing that. That's not going to be there A1. But you see what is there at day one, and it's a walking double-double, a paint protector, a rim protector. She's a capable player. It's just she needs to develop her jump shot. But at the same time, there's many people in the WNBA who don't necessarily have the best jump shot.
True.
And the fact that Chicago, she's been a walking double-double for the past 7 games, which is now a rookie record, I believe. I feel like she needs to be getting the kind of respect that she kind of deserves instead of this blatant disrespect because she opens her mouth sometimes. But that comes with the game. If you want to be a smart ass all the time and fly off at the mouth when it's not really necessary, prepare for it.
Right. Yeah.
That's my only problem with Angel Reese. I have no problem with her game because I know it's going to develop and she'll eventually, her and Camilla will get those jump shots to fall and it's going to be game over. Once them two, along with like a Kennedy Carter, figure out how to play together, it's a wrap. But just because we don't like half the stuff Angel Reese says out of her mouth, don't mean we need to discredit the fact that she's playing pretty damn good right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, those 3 names you mentioned, Carter, Reese, Cardoza, seems like kind of a foundation for a pretty good defensive team. I feel like with Chicago, they could be a team that's built on defense and the offense kind of it figures itself out. I mean, once again, I'm a Connecticut Sun fan. You watch the Sun, they play really good defense and then use that defense to get easy buckets. I feel like Chicago can kind of mimic that if they continue down this road. I know you talked about Angel Reese being a walking double-double. Like she's literally averaging 12 and 11. So she's been doing this all season. Yes, field goal percentage, 39%. But like you said, Caitlin Clark has struggled shooting. A lot of players struggle shooting. And I know, we discussed the topics and like all that before because I saw the whole Jason Whitlock thing, which you're like me, can't stand the man. I was just going around looking at some stuff and I saw a Jason Whitlock quote come up where he basically knocked Angel Reese down to being unathletic, overrated, and not having a skill. I
He
find it
overrated.
hilarious. But I know, but I find it hilarious that you average a double-double without a skill. How do you manage that? Like he was like, all she is a rebounder. That's literally a skill. Dennis Rodman was only a rebounder and made a great career out of it. I feel like that's where Angel has obviously figured out that's where she can make the most impact right now. You see her play, she is relentless on the boards. If you give me a rookie and that's their one skill right off the bat, we're already ahead of the curve. Because like you said, this is a little different than college. She's not worried about classes and stuff. She can just get in the gym, work on a jump shot. I mean, we've seen her in some games knock down a mid-range jump shot. Maybe it's just something that she just needs to become more comfortable with, and then that could unlock some other things in her game. Post-up moves, she has a few. She's not like the best post-up player, but if you throw it down to her, she'll figure out a way to get a shot up. And if she
it'll
misses
go in.
Right, it'll either go in or if she misses it, she's probably getting that rebound. So,
Or back.
right. I think from the free throw line, she's shooting like 78%. You'll take that any day. So, go ahead.
You reminded me of that, and it kind of just set me off a little bit. Because, like, all that man do is sit there and hate on people. She's not athletic. She's more athletic than his wide body scat back built self.
True.
That man is built like a whole Tahoe. And he over here calling somebody unathletic.
Yeah.
You're known for your overrated NFL career, and she's making a name for herself. And the only exercise you get is when he runs his mouth. Don't sit here with the unathletic and da-da-da-da-da, just being a hater.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand Whitlock. I can't.
I mean, it's the very reason why he's not on ESPN anymore. He's not on Fox Sports. He's
on YouTube.
I don't know. Yeah, he's just in a room screaming at a webcam at this point. That's what he is. And also, not to take away from Angel Reese, she's averaging 2 steals a game as well. So she's filling the box score. I mean, looking at it right now, because obviously this is a conversation that's going to be brought up because we get Sky Fever. Is it tomorrow or Sunday? Sometime this weekend. Those two teams play again, which means they'll drum up the whole Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese stuff again. Would you say Angel Reese is Rookie of the Year right now?
Yes.
Okay. That's probably going to be an unpopular opinion because we know how the WNBA discourse goes. If you don't pick Caitlin Clark for the award, then you just get shouted down.
It was.
I mean, I would agree. She's been the most consistent. Oh, say the last part.
What she was doing defensively, but unfortunately, and my heart goes out to her, she tore her ACL.
Yeah, it was tough because I was against the Sun, so I was watching that, and it was just a simple drive to her left, and then the knee buckled, and I figured she kind of knew, and for her, she had a good start to her rookie season as well. You hate to see it end so early. That's
life.
The dangers of basketball. All right. So definitely we'll be keeping our eye on Angel Reese. I mean, I'm sure you'll probably watch Sky Fever. I will check it out as well because it's going to be built up as the game you need to watch because most of their matchups are and will be going forward. That's one thing because we did talk about how Angel can kind of put her foot in her mouth sometimes. She has said before that people aren't only watching for Caitlin Clark, they watch for her as well. These matches between the two of them are going to be the most talked about matchups of the season. So she does have a point there. But we'll see who wins that one. I'm sure it might be something we talk about again next week. All right, now we're switching to NFL. Because like I said at the top, we're going to get into some predictions here. That'll be how we close the show out. But NFL season coming around, preseason August. Trevor Lawrence got paid last week. That obviously turned the attention to, one, the quarterback market and how it's getting out of control. But then within that, looking at the next ones up to sign a new deal. That means Dak, Tua, Jordan Love. One of those guys is going to get signed next. And because of the Trevor Lawrence money, they're obviously going to be looking at it as we need to get something around that, possibly more. So I think to make it simple, between the three of them, just going down the line, who would you give money anywhere near what Trevor Lawrence got or more? So actually, we'll do it this way. I'll give you the player. You tell me if you give them more than Trevor Lawrence, same, or less. Dak Prescott.
Less off the bat.
Yeah. Okay. Tua.
I give him the same.
Interesting. Okay. Jordan Love.
Slightly more.
I would agree there. So Dak less, Tua same, Jordan Love more. So does that mean, looking at, like, if you're doing a quarterback ranking, wherever you had Trevor Lawrence in your ranking, does that mean you'd have Dak slightly below him, Tua kind of maybe right below him or right ahead of him, and then Jordan Love ahead of Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I have Dak because let's not get this confused. Dak is a good quarterback. He has good regular seasons, but he also has good regular seasons against bad teams. Now, when he plays teams that are actually worth two nickels, and all that good quarterback stuff kind of goes out the window. And it's not just the playoffs; it's the regular season too. By the way, so I think Dak is slightly worse than Trevor Lawrence. And I think, and you know how I think about Trevor Lawrence being overrated and looked at as the golden pony boy of the division. And I would put Tua on the same level, if not just a slight notch above him. And I like Jordan Love a lot. I like what he was able to do in the middle of a season. He snapped back in the middle of a season. He didn't slide halfway in and end his season on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Like somebody we know. They actually went to pretty well they made a pretty decent playoff run for what it was worth and how young that Green Bay team is, considering they're defensively as well. You went and saw Jordan Love out dual Dak and just put that whole Dallas and his defense on his butt. I like what I saw from Jordan Love a lot more than what I like to see from Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess quickly, like, if I'm looking at it, I do think Dak and Tua are kind of in a similar situation with Trevor Lawrence in that they can put up numbers regular season wise, even though Trevor Lawrence, his numbers have been up and down so far in his career. I don't know about those three come playoffs. Tua had a terrible showing against Kansas City when it was really cold. Dak, we know the history of him and the Cowboys. And then Trevor Lawrence, unfortunately, the only thing you remember on him in the playoffs is losing that. Well, no, they won that one. But the comeback against the Chargers, which, fine. But that was more about the inability of Staley and the Chargers as opposed to, Trevor Lawrence in the Jaguars. So outside of that, he doesn't really have much to stand on in terms of the playoffs. Jordan Love, at least, he's only started for 1 year, but in that 1 year, he's had a playoff run that's better than all three combined, basically at this point. So, yeah, if I'm giving somebody big money, I would give it to Jordan Love. We're coming up on an hour and a half, so let's get into our final topic because I know it's something that you really wanted to get into. Way too early, NFL predictions. I love making these myself, so I'll let you start off with your first prediction. I guess you could pick whatever division or whatever you want to go with, and then I'll make my prediction for the same division or whatever, and we'll finish up this way.
The Broncos are going to stink. I think karma's going to come back to bite them in the butt on how they did Russell Wilson. No human deserves to be treated that way, and I don't like Sean Payton. I don't think Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback of the future. I think they've lost too much talent, and I think they're just going to be flat out trash. They will be picking high next year.
That's not bad. Not a bad place to start. I think in that division, I feel like Harbaugh. Well, actually, you know what? I'll make a prediction on the Broncos. I know you talk about Bo Nix. I have a weird suspicion that Bo Nix could have I don't know how to say this. I think Sean Payton thinks Bo Nix is going to be his Brock Purdy for like Shanahan, Brock Purdy. That's why I think they went after Bo Nix. I'm kind of with you. I'm not so sure that Bo Nix is that guy, but I think that's the motivation behind it. Sean Payton was never going to, work with Russell Wilson. Wasn't his guy. We know he has somewhat of an ego. He wanted a guy that he could say, "This is my guy." That's what Bo Nix was. So I do agree with you. I think the Broncos probably finish last in that division.
I think the Raiders will be. Oh, my bad. Did I talk?
No. Go ahead.
I think the Raiders will be a pleasant surprise. Now, the quarterback situation is a little sticky.
That's gonna be my question. Yeah.
I don't like Gardner Minshew, and I don't know what Aiden O'Connell is. So, just the way the team feels around AP, I feel like they'll be a pleasant surprise. I know that's a dumb metric, but when a team loves its coach, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that'll probably propel them to more wins than they should get.
Okay. Sticking in the same division. I am intrigued by Harbaugh and Herbert. I feel like next season we get a better version of Herbert and the Chargers. And I do believe that the Chargers will be the team that pushes the Chiefs in that division. Not saying they overtake them, but I feel like the Chargers will make it interesting.
I have one that's just completely out of left field. The Jets will finish last again.
That is music to my ears. The whole Aaron Rodgers stuff this offseason is just perfect timing.
Mine is as short up as you think it is. I think Aaron's going to get beat up again.
Yeah.
I think the team is going to quit on Salah because clearly he ain't got control of anything that go on over there. He don't even know what to say to the media half the time. There are a train wreck waiting to happen, and I can't wait to see it.
I don't know if I have them finishing last, but I definitely think the Jets missed the playoffs. I thought that last season for a lot of the reasons of Aaron Rodgers just not being a leader, and I feel like his resume and everything has blown out of proportion people's stance on him as like a really great quarterback. I feel like you can say he's a great talent, but not a great quarterback. So I have the Jets missing the playoffs. I don't think I'll go as far to say that they finished last in the division, but I will agree with you that they missed the playoffs.
I'm trying to give your team some credit.
I know, and I
Everybody has
appreciate
to
that.
think them
I do.
last.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could make the argument it could be Buffalo. Buffalo, I don't know what Buffalo's going to be. Post Diggs, I don't know what does that make Josh Allen a better quarterback because maybe now he starts spraying the ball to other players. Does he completely like crumble and start to do more running for himself, thinking that that's the only way they're going to win? I don't know about Buffalo, so I do think the Patriots will be a little bit better than people think. But I'm just going to say, yes, Jets missed the playoffs. I'd probably go ahead and say, nah, I wasn't gonna do it with the Bills because I have some questions about the Dolphins either, and two is so somebody has to win that division.
I think
So I'll
Robert
stick with the
Sala
Jets
gets
right.
fired.
Oh, you said what?
I think Sala gets fired.
That yeah, I think the writing's on the wall for that one because this whole thing about Aaron Rodgers not being there and basically making it seem like, oh, he told them a while ago he wasn't going to be there, but Salah was making it seem like, yeah, we didn't know he's supposed to be here. We don't know where he is. So yeah, he's definitely going to lose out if it's he or Aaron Rodgers. The Jets will choose Aaron Rodgers over him. He better start packing up his desk now.
And my next one, the Colts are going to be absolutely trash because they did absolutely nothing off season. And they don't have a good front office to me. Actually, no, I'm not even going to sit here and lie on the internet. I don't like Chris Ballard. I don't like Irsay. I don't like that dumb looking horseshoe. And they have some players that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like the Colts. And I don't see where they've done anything to improve in a division that's done everything to improve. Like,
I agree with that one. I actually think the
they,
AFC South goes Texans, Titans, Jags, Colts.
see, and I like that. You have some sense. You're being objective. A lot of these mainstream mediaites, like the idiot on Pro Football Focus who said my Titans were going to be 2-15, 2-15,
Yeah.
2 games. Mind you, we got a new head coach. We reshored the offensive line. Did you see what they went and got in free agency? 2 games. 2. I think we're going to be better than the Colts. Well, I know for a fact we're going to be better than the Colts. I think the Jaguars are in a weird year.
Right.
I think
I agree
trending
with that.
upwards. I think my team is trending upwards. And Houston clearly done put themselves in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they love their coach. They found their quarterback. We found our quarterback. I don't know what the hell the Colts got at quarterback, and the Jaguars overpaid their quarterback.
Yeah. And they got to worry that he may put too much pressure on himself.
Well, let them do it so they can fail. And I don't think the Ravens are going to go to another AFC championship anytime soon.
Well, I mean, people who have seen us on other shows, they know how we feel about the Ravens. So I can agree with that. Absolutely.
I'm going to go into depth about why I think that. They've lost too much.
Right. Yeah.
Look at you. What is that going to do for the defensive pieces you lost?
That's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think Carolina might pick 3 again, might have another high draft pick next year. They're setting Bryce Young up to fail. Free him because David Tepper don't know what he's doing. I don't even think the Cowboys are going to win 10 games next year.
That's okay. Because we know that they're known for getting 10 wins at least. So you don't think they'll win 10?
Mm-mm.
Actually, I do think next year is going to be weird with the Cowboys because we don't know what they're going to do with Dak. We don't know, are they going to give CeeDee Lamb a new deal? We don't know about Micah Parsons. For all we know, those guys may, I don't know. It seems like a very weird situation in Dallas right now. So I'm not necessarily mad at that. I think, try to see a bold prediction for me. So I agree that the Panthers are going to struggle. That's a given. I think a bold prediction. I don't think that division is like 100% the Falcons because I know they brought in Kirk Cousins. They did make the draft of Michael Penix. That could create some type of turmoil. And I have a suspicion that the Bucks are going to make it interesting. I think the Bucks will hang around in that division, and I would not be surprised if the Bucks won the NFC South.
That's how they did it last year. Hang around. Because they knew the
Yeah.
Falcons were going to be the Falcons and somehow choke away a division lead. They collapsed in falconing. That was kind of worse than the Super Bowl because that was getting them to the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think another prediction I have. Oh, go ahead.
And they don't like Derek Carr. And
Yeah, they don't. Saints are weird too. See, like, the Saints are. Well, part of it is Sean Payton completely screwed up their salary cap, and they're trying to figure that out while sitting here with Derek Carr, who I just don't know what you're gonna get from him from week in and week out. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting situation as well in New Orleans because defensively they're okay. If the offense could just be consistent, they'd probably be a bigger player in that division. But yeah, I think it's another season of them being up and down and missing the playoffs. I can agree with that.
I think San Francisco's going to struggle. I think that the collective years of not getting over the hump is going to start to wane on them. They're going to start to crack. And then I think people are going to start looking at Kyle Shanahan as a fraud that he is.
I mean, yes, this season seems like a last stand for this Niners group. Because even if Ayuk and Samuel are there, you figure next year one or both won't be there. Kittle, not young anymore. Don't know how many years you're getting from him. Brock Purdy is, yes, young, but we don't know if he has like a lasting career right now. We don't know if he's going to string together several seasons of Niners football where they're competitive and in contention. We don't know that necessarily. So yeah, and the Rams are good. Stafford's health obviously is going to play a pivotal role in how well the Rams are. So you figure the Rams are going to push them. The Seahawks, depending on what you get from Geno, you don't know. And then the Cardinals are, well, the Cardinals. At some point, the Cardinals have to start trending upward. Like they're completely rock bottom right now. It has to be better at some point. So yeah, I could see the Niners obviously dropping a few more games this season.
The Cardinals drop off to irrelevancy happened once they paid Kyler and did all of that crap with his contract.
Yeah, well, I mean that's front office just take a guy number 1 overall. They don't want to make advertise that as a complete failure, so they pay him his money, and now I'm sure they regret it, but they're stuck with him, so they gotta make the best of it.
football midget will be picking with the number 1 draft pick. I'm going to end on a shebang.
So you have the Giants with the worst record in the league.
They deserve it.
That's interesting. Because there are some bad teams. Panthers, Cardinals.
Look, I like
I
Bryce
can
Young
see it.
over
I can see
Daniel
it.
Jones. I like Kyler Murray over Daniel Jones.
Well, I think the Giants like those guys over Daniel Jones too. They're completely done with him. If they could rewind time and not give him the contract, they would do it.
They would have paid Saquon. They would have paid that man what he was worth instead of wasting money on Daniel Jones. For somebody who took over 2 feet.
But we also know how running backs are valued now. I kind of think if they could redo it, they would just let both of them go. But hey, hindsight is 2020. So I mean that's a big prediction to end on. I feel like I kind of have to match that energy now. What's my biggest, boldest prediction for next season?
The Patriots going to win the Super Bowl?
I'm not. No, I would love to utter those words, but I can't. I can't do it. All right. I mean, they are my team, so I'm gonna say Drake May gets his first start in London against Jacksonville. I think it's like week 11. That's my bold prediction.
That's plenty of time for him to sit behind Brissett and really learn the offense and everything.
Yeah, and Brissett, he knows his role. He's only there to keep the seat warm until Drake May's there and to show him how to be a pro. And he's well aware of that and is fine with it. So I think it's a perfect match for him. All right. That's about as bold a prediction as we're gonna have. I'm sure we'll do some more NFL predictions as we get closer to the season. Maybe see some stuff in the preseason. Obviously, before the season, we'll do season predictions, picking playoff teams, possible Super Bowl matchups. We'll do all that. The NBA season's over with, but we'll also touch on offseason moves that do happen. So make sure you come back here next week, next Friday, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Passion and Precision with myself and Jory. I mean, Jory, if you have anything you want to add before we get out of here. There we go. So we'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you back here next week. Integrity Sports Network, Passion and Precision. Appreciate all of you in the comments. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the network. Greatly appreciate it. And we are out. See you all next week. Bye.